The culmination of the Rakuzaichi arc in Kagurabachi involves the main antagonist of the arc, Kura Sazanami, pulling out the enchanted blade that he had put up for auction in a desperate bid to try and maintain order as the entire Rakuzaichi starts to fall apart right before him, revealing to the audience what the power that ended the Seitai War 18 years ago looks like when in action. Let's talk about the Magatsumi/Shinuchi blade and why the scene it is first showcased within is so memorable and effective at presenting just how scary the enchanted blades can be. Magatsumi is the sixth enchanted blade created by Kunishigi Rokihira and is the enchanted blade that ended the Seitai War. It is also the third enchanted blade that we are introduced to within Kagurabachi's narrative, and it is the enchanted blade being auctioned at the Rakuzaichi, which the Rakuzaichi auction arc revolves around. It is not currently known why Magatsumi was made to be so strong, or even if it was intentionally made to be as strong as it was. That said, after the Seitai War, when Kunishigi Rokihira took all 6 of the blades he made and contained them safely within his house, he got the Kamunabi, a branch of the government run by sorcerers, to make a special containment container for the Magatsumi blade, which required bio-authentication from 3 of its heads. The Magatsumi has a unique ability not seen with the other enchanted blades, where, despite being associated with a single wielder due to the lifelong contract of the enchanted blades, the power of the blade can still be utilized in some form by somebody else, even while the other wielder who formed the lifelong contract with the blade is still alive. We see this demonstrated by Kura Sazanami, the antagonist of the Rakuzaichi arc, utilizing the blade at the end of the arc. Magatsumi was put up for auction by a third party who wanted to see if whoever got access to the blade could control its power despite the original wielder still being alive and out there in the world, making Kura an unfortunate byproduct to see the exact extent to which the power of Magatsumi could be controlled despite its original wielder still being able to remotely access the blade. As soon as Magatsumi was removed from its protective container, the blade became accessible by the Swordmaster who originally had access to the blade from God knows how far wherever he's stored. We don't know where the original wielder of Magatsumi is currently being held. All we know is that he can feel some sort of connection with Magatsumi trying to be used while he's still connected to it, and as a result, he was able to assume control of it. Kura was not even able to fully unsheath the blade, though all he needed was to lift the blade maybe an inch out of its sheath to get access to the abilities of Magatsumi in some form. The Swordmaster, controlling Magatsumi remotely, then proceeded to go on a rampage through Kyora's body, killing what was probably dozens of people within the hall that the Rakuzaichi itself was being held in. While Kyora was consciously and selfishly choosing to use Magatsumi at that moment to try and put up a fight against the infiltration of enemy forces in the Rakuzaichi, he probably would not have been able to stop the Swordmaster's influence over both him and the blade, even if he wanted to. And so, with the last embers of Kyora's life slowly drifting away, through the Swordmaster trying to control him through the blade, almost attempting to overwrite his conscious thought through the blade itself, he puts up as best of a fight as he can against Chihiro and Hiyuki before dying from his injuries, albeit not for lack of trying to take a bunch of people down with him. Even if Kyora in that moment was just trying to smite 1, maybe 2 specific people with the enchanted blade, the will of the Swordmaster controlling the blade from afar, plus the sheer overwhelming power of the weapon of mass destruction, meant that Kyora was taking a lot more people with him than expected. Even though the focus of Magatsumi being pulled out in this moment was to try and smack down a very select group of people, its sheer overwhelming force was put on display, giving us a true example of the power that the enchanted blades command. Magatsumi's most identifiable visual feature are the fields of flowers that grow from wherever its influence is sowed. Magatsumi itself almost seems to start to bleed when Kiora tries to open it up for the first time, and after this, a sort of pool of liquid starts to form at his feet, from which flowers start to grow. Two of the attacks that we see with Magatsumi do not explicitly cause the creation of flowers, but it seems as if simply using Magatsumi causes a field of flowers to start to spread out all around it. One of the abilities directly involves the blade being used to shoot a field of flowers along the ground towards a target. These flowers will grow on anything, including solid ground with no dirt and people, causing blood to spurt out from said people as the flowers seemingly probably sap them of their energy and life force in order to grow themselves. Besides for the flowers that grow in a radius surrounding Magatsumi whenever it is even just activated, not even expressly used, the blade itself is known for having an insect visual motif for its 3 abilities. Not only are mystical butterflies spawned alongside the flowers that grow from Magatsumi's usage, but activating the blade in some form creates what is almost an ethereal pair of butterfly wings behind the wielder. The first named ability of Magatsumi is Spider, where the wielder will point the blade at somebody and cause them to be immobilized within a spider web generated on the ground. The next named ability for Magatsumi is Dragonfly, in which the wielder, again, points the blade at a target, but instead launches a field of flowers at them from the ground, presumably causing the flowers to grow on the person if they touch the flowers. The third and final named ability of Magatsumi is Centipede, where the wielder will lift the blade from its sheath as a set of centipede body parts start to swirl around them. Then they'll put the blade back into its sheath and cause the centipede body parts to shoot out like shrapnel in an explosion. The main thing I like about Magatsumi is the idea that it'll generate this field of pretty flowers which will cause them to grow on you and kill you if you touch them. Like, the flowers themselves are a really interesting visual motif to associate with the quote-unquote strongest blade, but also just this body horror element of these flowers supernaturally growing on surfaces really hammers in how dangerous this thing actually is. The whole sort of sequence with Magatsumi's powers being revealed for the first time by the original sword wielder going on a rampage remotely through Kiora is also really cool. In general, Magatsumi's abilities being revealed this way really makes it come off as unpredictable and scary, and that is arguably the thing we should be feeling with this strongest blade that ended the war. It also just makes you wonder who the sword master is, as in the original wielder of Magatsumi that assumed control of it remotely and decided first things first to go on a rampage. Like, we know that the sword bearers are kept under control by the Kaminabi in order to avoid people killing them so they can get access to the blades, but it makes you wonder if this guy is kept under containment for our own good, not his own good. The main thing that I think makes this sequence really work for me is just how shocking and unexpected it is. Like, narrative logic dictates that at some point we were going to get some demonstration of the Magatsumi's abilities, but the way that they were demonstrated at the end of the Rakuzaichi arc makes it come off just as explosive and as dangerous as all the chapters before its reveal made it out to be. Plus, you'd assume the blade being shown off for the first time and us getting to see its abilities in use would basically answer a lot of questions about why it's so dangerous, and it does put into context why specifically Kunishige didn't really like talking about it and why he went so far as to put the blade under containment, but it also just sort of leaves us with more questions than answers. Like, yes, now we know that the Magatsumi is dangerous because it has this flower ability that could seemingly go out of control very quickly, and that the person who is actually wielding the sword in the war, i.e. the sword master and the person who takes control of it during the Rakuzaichi, is probably somebody who knows exactly what to do to get the most destructive effect out of it. But that doesn't answer questions like how specifically it was used in the war, how many people died to it, why it was made the way it was. So the blade just ends up feeling a lot more mysterious, despite the fact that we did get a very good glimpse into what it actually is. It sets a very interesting tone for what I assume is its eventual future showcases slash future elaborations, and I am just incredibly excited to learn more about and see more about this blade specifically. Hopefully, I really hope we do learn more about this blade and we just get to see more of it in the future. I really love how delightfully beautiful its destructive power is, and frankly, I do really want to know why the fuck Kunishigi made this specifically. Like, a sword that could shoot ice or lightning? Yeah, I mean, okay, why not make a gun? But sure, yeah, that's cool. A sword that creates fields of flowers that causes flowers to supernaturally grow on people while killing them? That's really fucking weird. Kunishige, did you just enjoy killing millions of civilians for the love of the game?